Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life with Sterling Fox on AM 650.
And welcome back to the program. Nice to have you with us. Today we're talking about solutions to debt, some of which you may not even be aware of. In studio with us today is Brett Luckin, trustee in bankruptcy and vice president with Abakhan and Associates, who are proposal administrators and trustees in bankruptcy. Brett, just before we went to break, I was talking about two categories of debt. The personal debt, the kind we get into trouble with our credit cards, and the kind that business people incur trying to get a business launched successfully. Am I right to separate debt into those two categories? Or from your side of the desk, is debt just debt, period?
Yes, Sterling, I think honestly the answer to that is actually twofold. I think on the one hand, debt is just debt. And once it comes and lands at your front door, it has the same impact on you as whether it's a business debt that you've co-signed on a guarantee, or whether it's just a credit card in a personal name that you've just overspent.
Oh, I don't doubt the personal impact part is.
The telephone calls, the harassment, the judgments, the potential of garnishing of bank accounts or your wages directly, and the embarrassment of your employer getting some kind of garnishment order.
Exactly.
Those kinds of things are just true no matter how the debt arose.
Right.
Having said that, though, on the other side, often I think what tends to happen is that people understand their personal debt. They know how much personal debt they're in. And they don't often, in a business perspective, keep track of how personally, if that business were to go under, how that would come and visit them.
Right, and we just touched on that a little bit in the first segment, because it's not always, you can't always keep your business at arm's length from yourself. The law and various other things are going to catch up with you, and there will be some overlap, won't there?
An example will be Canada Revenue debt. The payroll deductions, when you deduct from a person's payroll, from one of your employees, you're meant to pay that over to Canada Revenue.
Sure.
If you don't do that and your business goes under, that payroll debt that the business owed is automatically a director liability.
I see.
It will follow you in your personal
capacity.
So
the feds will track it out.
GST is the same.
Okay.
Very often when you take out, you have a trade payable, let's say a supplier, where you have a lot of business flowing through that supplier, you may have forgotten that years previously you signed some kind of guarantee which put you on the hook for the debt if the business were to go under. And you've completely forgotten that. 10 years have passed since you did that, right? And when the business goes under, you suddenly discover that 50 grand that was a trade payable that you thought you weren't going to owe personally, in fact you do.
Right.
And so when people run businesses, small businesses, they should pay far more attention to those kinds of issues than I think often they do.
Right. A lot of people, because if they're small businesses, they're entrepreneurs, the heart and soul is the business and the providing of the service or the product to the customers. And the paperwork, I just leave that to the accountant. Once a month we sit down for half an hour and he tells me whether we're okay or not. And that's it. A half an hour a month is the only financial connection the business operator has to the numbers.
And to be completely blunt with you, as a trustee in bankruptcy, what I see all the time is that one of the primary reasons for failure of businesses, small businesses particularly, is because the business owner does not pay enough attention to the financials of the company, to the cash flow, to the accounts receivable collections, to who's getting paid. So often they rely on the accountant to do certain things. They discover the accountant has not done those things. As an example, simply the bookkeeper never paid the GST.
Right.
And now suddenly the Canada Revenue is phoning them and saying that 20 grand you now owe personally. They need to pay more attention to those sorts of things.
Which do you see at Abakhan and Associates more frequently, Brett? Individuals with personal debt or entrepreneurs with business debt?
It's in a spread, I would say far more personal debt.
Okay.
People who come to us, but often there's the sole proprietor, there's the guy that runs a small incorporated entity. We see a lot of those as well, but primarily, mostly, it's personal debt issues.
How do people get into personal debt problems? Is it usually credit cards?
Credit cards is one of the larger. Yes, there's no doubt. Credit cards.
My premise at the opening remark at the beginning of the show today was money is cheap.
Money's very cheap.
It's unbelievably cheap. It's almost impossible to say no to.
It's crazy. Just the other day, there was a lady sitting across the table from me going bankrupt, and she got a call that day, literally about an hour before she saw me, with another bank offering her another credit card with a $5,000 limit.
Oh my!
So it's bizarre actually how easy it is to get yourself into debt.
Right.
And you have to understand that it's not the bank's job, and the bank certainly doesn't see itself in that position to check whether or not you can afford it, that is actually ultimately, that should rest with you. You need to decide, I should not be saying yes to this card.
Right, right.
Yeah.
As far as offering solutions and hope to people dealing with debt problems, there's a real spectrum of options out there. For example, you see their ads on TV, you see them online, these credit counseling companies, some of which are in Canada and some of which aren't.
Yes.
So talk to us about the difference, for example, between being a federally regulated trustee in bankruptcy versus being a credit counselor.
Okay, I want to predicate my whole discussion by pointing out the obvious, and that there is a place in the market for everybody.
Of course.
And credit counselors are very important to the whole insolvency process and to the ability for people to be able to repay their debt.
But there are distinctions between categories of advisors.
Absolutely. And the difference is, I suppose, fundamentally, is that as a trustee in bankruptcy, I'm federally regulated.
Right.
I've codes and ethics that are actually built into the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. They're not just agreements between me and a bunch of people in some kind of committee somewhere.
It's not best practices. It's the way you have to conduct business.
It's the law. It's built into an act.
Right.
I have a license, and to protect that license, there is a whole bunch of things that I have to ensure I actually do. There's rules I need to follow, guidelines and standards that I need to adhere to. And in fact, the words that are used so often internally in our industry is, we are officers of the court.
Right.
It's our job, in fact, if in any given situation we are making any kind of decision, we need to be able to look at ourselves and say, if I was standing in a court of law, could I justify my action today?
Right.
And would I be questioned on what my motivations were? And that is an incredibly powerful motivation to behave in an objective manner.
Right, right. And now, so we've got this on the one side with the federally regulated and licensed trustees and proposal administrators. Credit counselors, I assume, do, as you say, obviously offer a service to some members of the community, but they don't have the same parameters within which they have to operate.
A simple example would be, only a licensed trustee in bankruptcy can file a consumer proposal, a bankruptcy, or any kind of corporate proposal or corporate bankruptcy.
Right.
So at a formal level, if you wanted to file a proposal to your creditors through the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act, you have to go to a trustee in bankruptcy.
Right.
Yeah.
I suppose where I'm going with this, Brett, is the fly-by-nighters, the shady guys, because there are legitimate credit counseling services that are incredibly necessary, and they help a lot of people.
I've got to tell you, we deal with some of those guys, and they are unbelievably good at helping people out in certain circumstances.
But there are also a lot of unscrupulous operators who will take advantage of the fact that people who are just mired in debt are, well, they're not happy people. They're incredibly stressed. They're just wound up like a tight spring. Life is no fun, and they start looking for any opportunity for relief. And some of these guys operating online want your money. So you have to send them money and your files and all this stuff. They end up not doing much, but they present themselves to you as your savior, and they suck a lot of people in.
They do. We do see people often coming to our offices that have spent sometimes thousands of dollars on the less scrupulous credit counseling.
And this is why it's important to talk about.
And in fact, ironically, I'll tell you that the other day I signed up an elder gentleman in a proposal who had paid so much to a credit counselor before he came to see me that I actually think that money, if funding his proposal, would have been sufficient to repay his creditors. But in fact, that money was gone, and none of his creditors had seen a dollar of it. So if you're going to go to a credit counselor, make it a local person. Don't do this internet thing where you're dealing with someone by email.
Resolving personal debt issues is not something you do with an anonymous person on the internet.
No, and don't be sending money off until you're clear of what kind of service is physically going to be offered to you.
Well, it's important advice, Brett. It's very important. Now, there are two items that you've mentioned a couple of times here, and that is the bankruptcy and something called a consumer proposal. So what's the difference between the two, and are those both remedies available to people who are having a tough time with debt?
The answer is, again, it's like one of those twofold answers. The answer is yes and no. Fundamentally, the way that I like to explain to people when they come and see me is that the logic of the existence of a trustee in bankruptcy is that you've reached a point in your financial life where you are unable to resolve your debt informally.
Right.
You can't pay your creditors back. You're not earning enough money to be able to meet the payments that are requested of you. It may well have been some kind of medical issue that's created catastrophe in your financial life.
Right.
It may be divorce, separation,
Job loss,
right. Unemployment, etc., etc. You've reached this point, you can't resolve your debt informally. You're faced with these two options, bankruptcy or proposal. And a consumer proposal, in essence, if I were to summarize it, is an opportunity for you to repay a portion of your debt, often as a substantial discount. It can sometimes be as low as 20 cents on the dollar,
okay,
to your creditors, interest-free, over a 5-year period, and as long as you make your payments, no one can take legal action against you.
Okay.
Having said that, of course, a dollar value is associated with that repayment scheme, even if it's a lot less than what you maybe would have had to repay at 100 cents on the dollar.
Right.
If you cannot afford to commit upwards of 5 years, that dollar repayment on a monthly basis, really fundamentally your only opportunity at that point in time is then to go bankrupt.
Okay, so the consumer proposal assumes that you are a wage-earning kind of person, and you will continue to be so for the next 5 years. You recognize that you're in a bit of a pickle, and
Yes.
you're determined to pay your way out to the best of your ability.
And by and large, many of our clients can achieve exactly that and avoid bankruptcy. There's a myth out there that if I can't repay my debt, bankruptcy is now my only option.
Well, I would imagine
And
a
that's
lot of people
nonsense.
come to you going, well, gee,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Luckin, but I got to go bankrupt. That's why I'm here. And do you? I would imagine your first response is, well, maybe not.
Yeah, in fact, often the opening line is, I've been thinking about this for a long time now, but I think I have to go bankrupt.
Right.
And my first reaction is, I tell you what, why don't you tell me what the issues are, who you owe money to, and let us get some information down, paint a picture, and let's actually see if bankruptcy is genuinely the only option.
Well, I'm recalling back to the three important questions that George Abakhan was reminding us of, that each of you go through. The three basic questions: how much do you owe?
Correct.
How much do you own? And how much do you earn?
Correct.
And based on those three sets of numbers, that the determination can be made pretty much on the spot as to whether a proposal or a bankruptcy will be more likely.
Practically speaking, in less than 15 to 20 minutes, you can figure out whether somebody could file a proposal as opposed to a bankruptcy.
Right.
Yeah.
How frequently do people come to you, Brett, saying, this has been going on now for quite some time, and I can't take it anymore. I can't take the phone calls, the threatening letters, the atmosphere of mistrust and these aggressive people every time I turn around hounding me. But it suggests that they put up with this for a long time. Why do people take so long before they finally come to terms with the fact that we've got to sit down with a pro and get this thing figured out?
Too often. There are too many people who come to our offices after spending sometimes years.
Yes.
Awake at night, struggling with the potentially I suppose the word is shame, of the fact that it's all falling apart and they just don't know how to solve the problem.
And that's not the way the script was written in any of our lives. I mean, we're
No.
supposed to, we're not supposed to fail.
No. And I think I did mention a story to you earlier where there was a lady who was sitting across the table from me quite recently that spent the entire session that I was with her wringing her hands like she was trying to wash them. And it was so clear to me that so I said it to her. I said, this is keeping you up at night. She said, it's eating me alive.
Right.
So what's really important for people like that is to understand is that the wrong thing to do is just to sit on that issue.
Yes.
You need to come and see us.
But
before
some
it gets
people,
too late.
I know, and we need to take a break here, Greg, but hang on just a sec. Because this is important and we need to finish this thought. One of the reasons I suspect people hesitate before coming to you and putting up with all of this stuff is what you just referred to, Brett, is the shame.
Yes.
There is a bankruptcy is a public declaration of failure. And, it's hard on the old ego to you feel that the whole world is watching you and snickering behind your back.
Yeah.
And that you're going to sit down and talk to this federal guy, this licensed trustee, and he's going to wag his finger at me and tell me what a nut job I am and how I should have, been smart 5 years ago, and I'm going to get judged and I'm going to get a lecture, and I don't want that. I got enough of the other stuff on the phones and the letters at home.
Yeah.
So people actually will not go see you because they're afraid of getting a lecture.
That's part of it. The shame issue, I think I mentioned also that there was a gentleman that came to see me, an older gentleman, who seemed very stoic for most of the discussion. In fact, I was wondering whether he was even listening sometimes. And only when he made his final signature on the piece of paper, he started to cry. And then he admitted that for him, this was a personal faillie.
Yes.
That his word had been his bond his whole life.
How old was this gentleman, roughly?
He was in his late 60s.
Oh, really? Okay.
And he just felt like he had actually he'd failed everybody.
Right.
And then I spent 10 or 15 minutes with him. And honestly, I suppose there's a level at which it's also my job to point out to these people that, yes, there is debt. Yes, you're not able to repay it back. But here is an opportunity for you to sleep at night, for you to move forward.
How about get your life back, eh?
Fresh start, just put it aside that you can't change this, and now it's about you waking up tomorrow and feeling better.
How about being able to sleep well at night and not tossing and turning and being eaten up by debt, as Brett was describing one of his recent clients telling him. Our guest is Brett Lucken, Vice President with Abakhan and Associates. They are proposal administrators and trustees in bankruptcy. By the way, Abakhan is spelled Abakhan, and you can find them online. Great website, too. It's called moneytroubles.ca. Check it out while we take this quick break on Boomer Life.
It's all about the baby boomer lifestyle. Boomer Life on AM 650.